is dry. I'm going to go and get a drink of water. Hi everybody. Hello YouTube. I've got Chris sent me all the drawings from last week. They're absolutely amazing. He did this one and we didn't use it in the end, so I'm going to talk about this guy. This is Paul Bunyan. We'll be talking about him in a second. I want to do that's the one of the fantastic. I want to do the shout outs first, so I'm going to wait a minute because I wouldn't like anyone to miss their shout out. But in the meantime, you sent me in a lot of fairly horrifying story prompts. Here they are. So I'm just going to put them in my Port Merion bowl. Here they are. They're going in. I'd hate to run out of. That's from Tim. The Fish's New Shoes from Steph. Two eyes peered out of her pencil case, which is also from Steph. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Charles Dickens. I don't think you're really watching this, Charles. I mean, Who's is unfair and my children are dead by Samson, who is the star of Embo's Academy. He's actually the only pupil of Embo's Academy. Something was seriously wrong. It shouldn't be. Maybe this is wrong to read them out. It looked just like an ordinary jolly birthday card, but when he opened it, Mrs. Digby. Digby is a very significant name for people who are reading Cosmic. From the steps of the caravan, Gerald looked out on. That's a good one. I write from the cupboard under the stairs. The noise is horrific. Esther, a wiggly octopus. Izzy, a magic cheese. A murderous king, a trio of witches. The more I eat chocolate, that's from AHCT, whatever, Speds. Prompt, a flying fish from Mrs. Brannan. From Mrs. Brannan. So they're all going in there. I'm going to mix them up, put those aside for later, because today we are going to write something together by the end of this session. And I'm going to write it with you, which is the scariest thing. I have to say, I've done some scary things in my life. I've been in a war zone. I've been all kinds of, things, terrible things. But the idea of writing live for 5 minutes with you lot, that seems quite scary. That might be the end of my reputation. But we're going to do it because it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And it's all just got to be fun. So let's begin. Let us begin. So we're going to write for 5 minutes together. And before then, I am going to provide you and me, because I'm doing it too, with some inspiration. Inspiration. Here we go. So these are the shout outs. That's my new graphic from Chris Riddell. Shout out time. And there are a lot of shout outs. So to get me through this, I would like to imagine you shouting when you hear your name. Just give yourselves a cheer. So the shout outs go to the Reading Owls in Cambridge. Roberts in Harrogate. UKS2 are reading Cosmic. That's good. A shout out for them all, but especially Daniel and Falcons. Shout out to Class 5 at Lightmoor in primary in Telford. Yes. Can we hear you? Yes. That's for Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Shout out to St. Francis, that's me, C of E Primary School, who are reading Cosmic. And also to Compass Point Primary in Bristol. Can we have a Bristolian shout? I don't know what that would sound like. It'd be like, yes, thank you. We'll be sending, Year 5, Ashton Gate, Bristol. More people from Bristol. This is fantastic. Bishop Martin's Primary, Year 6. Tama, who is homeschooling, is it Tama or Tama? Who's homeschooling in Pocklington, and he's my fellow writer, but I don't know how to pronounce his name. Owen in Year 6, Jude in Year 4, and Dexter Chaplin in Year 2, all there. Shout out to St. Francis C of E, we've already done that. The hardworking writers of Year 5, Wilfred Owen School in Shrewsbury. Shout out to St. Martin de Porres Primary School in Birmingham. St. Martin de Porres Primary School, if you are listening, the new book which I have written, which comes out in May, the school in that book is St. Martin de Porres. Maybe it's not actually. Lou, who is homeschooling near Morecambe, great. Emma and Bjorn from the International School at Lusaka. We have Reach, who's asked some questions actually. And one of the questions that they've asked is, how do you think up creative ideas? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So you are on point, people in Lusaka. The people in the school in Norfolk who missed when I had to cancel going to the Norwich Science Festival because of the COVID. I really missed that. I really want to speak at science festivals. I love science festivals. Samantha Shipman, it's her birthday. So can everybody sing happy birthday, just like quickly. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Samantha. Happy birthday to you. That's the second time I've sung on this, and I think that's enough now. Mrs. Howell at St. George's. Greg, Year 9 homeschool student with I Prevail K-12. That's brilliant. Academic Learning Centre. We love that. Eve Burke in the County Down. And my new book is set in Northern Ireland, so you're there as well. Daniel, who is reading Cosmic. Yes, 6 at Ursuline Primary. Why didn't you just come round and look through the window? You're only around the corner. Years 3 and 4 at St. Mary's in Charminster. Happy birthday to Samantha again. Hello to Freya. Earlham Juniors in Norwich. Great Mells. Hatton Grove Primary. Bobby Moore, Year 6 is at Perrymount. Bobby Moore in Lewisham. Shout out for Isaac and Emmett in Lisbon, Northern Ireland. Wee buns. I think Lisbon is the home of Game of Thrones. Is that right? The amazing Year 5 at Park Primary in Wallasey. I can see you from my back window. Kitty, the genius dyslexic storyteller. Yes. Richmond Avenue Primary School in Shoeburyness. Farfield Primary in Bradford with their Incredibubble. I do love Bradford. Sacred Heart in Coventry. Year 5 especially. And Werburg and the Wirral. Thanks. I think that's it. Oh no, Agnes, age 7, who's reading Framed. A wonderful book. And Anthony of Padua. That's the saint that's in my new book. Anthony of Padua in Liverpool. Lots of talented and budding writers there, and you're going to be in my new book, which is great. Year 5 and 6 at New Marston Primary in Oxford. And then we've got a few questions. So I'm going to do the questions at the end. But they are our shout-outs for the day. And the people in Lusaka asked a really good shout-out question, which was, I'm just going to make sure I've got a message from the clever Kiara, and that might be, oh, somebody I missed, St. Edward's. Kiara's looking after you. You're not going to miss out. Right, so today we're going to write a story. New sentences, maybe even new words that have never been heard before. New ideas are going to come into the world before the end of this Zoom. And to get there, we're going to try and answer a question, which is where ideas come from, or how can you make ideas grow? Because ideas are actually going to come from this bowl because you sent them in. How do you make an idea grow? And one thing I was thinking about, and this is the picture that Chris drew, made me think about this, was exaggeration. We love a bit of exaggeration. So in the beginning, in America, when people first started building factories and houses and towns, people went off into these great forests to cut down trees, huge numbers of trees, an ecological disaster, and also a very difficult job because there were thousands of miles from anywhere in terrible conditions. And it was very, very lonely and quite boring because the food was boring as well. They just took tins of beans with them. That's all they had. So it was a malodorous and isolating job. And what the woodcutters would do is they would sit around the fire in the evening, and if a new person joined the camp, instead of talking to them directly and saying, welcome to the camp, they would talk to each other. They would play this game where they would talk to each other and they would tell what are called tall tales, in the hope that the newcomer would go, is that true? Or would say, yeah, I've seen that too, and so on. So they would tell these incredibly exaggerated stories, like they would say, last winter, it was so cold that the words froze when they came out of my mouth and fell into the snow. Or last winter, it was so cold that my coffee froze so quickly, it was still hot while it was ice. And most of all, they told exaggerated stories about this guy. This is Paul Bunyan, who was big. And they would say, oh, Paul Bunyan was here last winter, and he is taller than the trees. Because Paul Bunyan, they would say, he's so big that when he drags his axe along behind him, that's what made the Grand Canyon. Paul Bunyan is so big that instead of buttons on his shirt, he uses cartwheels. Paul Bunyan is so big, and this would go on and on and on. Paul Bunyan is so big that when the stork delivered him, it couldn't carry him. It took 7 storks to carry him into his bed, into his cot when he was a little baby. What other tall tales about Paul Bunyan? Paul Bunyan is so big that when you stand on one side of his frying pan, you can't see the other side of his frying pan. And that frying pan is so big that in order to grease it, Paul Bunyan ties a pig to each foot and then skates around the frying pan. Right? So that's exaggeration. And that's a really good, simple way to make your story grow, is to take a little thing, like your little sister, your little brother, a little annoyance, anything like that, and just make it bigger. And we do that when we talk about memories, don't we? When we tell our own stories, we make them bigger. We always make them a little bit bigger. So I'm going to read you a description of something. This is from a book that I wrote called Framed, which I think Agnes is reading, and which is set in North Wales. And it's set, you need to know just a tiny bit of background. We're not really going to talk about the story. I'm going to show you something. But it's a story about how I've imagined that London is flooded or something. I can't remember what. But all the very valuable pictures from the National Gallery have been taken away from the National Gallery. These amazing pictures by Rembrandt and Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael and Donatello and Michelangelo and all the other turtles. They've been taken and they've been hidden in a slate mine in North Wales. And I got this idea, because we're talking about where ideas come from. I got this idea from something true. This is what really did happen in the Second World War. All the paintings for the National Gallery were hidden in this slate mine in North Wales because Winston Churchill was worried that people in London would riot and steal the paintings. So they hid them in this mine in North Wales, in a town called Blaenau-Ffestiniog, which is I think a really beautiful town, but it's a mining town. So there's lots of slate and it's very, very, very grey. And the bus stop is made of slate and that's quite grey. And all the surrounding valleys are very green and blue and full of lovely colours, but this is grey. But, I think it's a really beautiful place. If it rains, you get the sun off the grey, it's beautiful. So I wrote this story about a little boy who lives in this town and finds out about the paintings. And in the bit I'm going to read you, he's going to describe a painting. And then I'm going to show you the painting. And so you've got to imagine that they're in this mine. And I've been to this mine. It's a mile under the ground. So after you go through the door, you've got to walk a mile to get to it. And then it's this huge huge cavern, like an underground cathedral. And if you shout, you can hear all these echoes. And so he's gone down with his class. It's dark, it's vast, it's kind of magical. It's like something like King Arthur, this huge, huge cavern full of this treasure, these billions of pounds worth of paintings. And down there is also a girl called Terrible Evans, who has been bullying our hero. He's called Dylan. The hero is called Dylan. And at the point I'm going to read to you, she's just stolen his Mars bar, and he's had enough. I need a sip of water. Are you ready? I had had enough. I turned on her. She grinned and ran off back up the tunnel. I went after her. I chased her up the steep passageway. I could hear her footsteps ahead of me and the boomy voices of my teachers arguing behind me in the echoes. Suddenly, the footsteps ahead of me stopped. I started running quicker, thinking, I will catch her now. Then I stopped. There was a scream, a terrible scream, blasting past me down the tunnel. They must have heard it in the big cave, because the boomy voices stopped, and the next thing I heard was 100 footsteps hurrying up the tunnel after me. The scream came again, and before I had time to think, I was running towards it. I got to the top. It was coming from the little room off the main entrance, the one where we had looked at the picture of the Madonna earlier. I pushed the door open, and Terrible Evans turned to face me. I'm sorry, she gasped. I thought it was real. She was pointing to the corner where the painting of the Madonna had been earlier. There was another picture there now, a different picture of a different woman, an ugly woman. When I say ugly, I don't mean she was not very nice looking. I mean her face should have had certificate 18. She had a huge pair of nostrils pointing straight at you like the exhausts on a truck. And as for her eyes, I've seen bigger eyes on a potato. Her skin was wrinkly, like a roast dinner gone wrong, especially her neck, which was like a turkey's. Her clothes were old-fashioned, like from history, and she had a random thing plonked on top of her head, which I suppose was supposed to be a hat, but it looked more like half a couch. And the very worst thing was, she was coming out of her dress at the top. This is that picture. Can you see it? It's a really terrible photocopy, I'm sorry. But that's the picture. It's by Quentin Massis, he learned a lot from Leonardo da Vinci. And it's called An Ugly Old Woman. And there's always been a debate about whether this is a real person or whether he made this person up to make some kind of point. But we think it might be a real person because Leonardo da Vinci, in a different country a few years earlier, made a sketch of what looks like the same person. Look, that's in one of his sketchbooks. So we think she might have been a real person, but we don't know. It's a really fascinating picture because if you go to the National Gallery, nearly all the pictures are like the pictures on Instagram, in that they're trying to make the person who's painted look better than they really look. So all the men have massive muscles and women have big hair and everyone's skin is perfect and everyone's striking a pose. And this woman is like, well, I suppose like you might think, well, that's her looking her best then. That's the painter trying to make her look better than usual. And I kind of came to love this painting because I don't know what it is about her, but there's something about her, I think. I like her. One thing to think about is that there's nothing in the background of this painting. I mean, this is a terrible photocopy, I'm sorry. But there's nothing in the background of this painting. And paintings like this of a face with nothing in the background, they have a very specific thing. They are kind of like dating pictures because it was very difficult to travel. And if you were rich and you're going to marry someone far away who you only knew by letter or reputation, you would send a painting like this of yourself. So this is her kind of like profile pic. Possibly. Nobody really knows the story. And you might want to make up a story about this woman. Maybe she didn't even know that she looked like this till the painting was done. Anyway, so why did I show you that? Because, does she remind you of anybody? Don't be rude. Don't say rude things like she reminds me of my teacher or something like that. But she reminds you very much of somebody, I think, if you have read this book which is called Alice. This is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Do you remember the Duchess? Can you see the Duchess? She actually looks just like this woman. I'm trying to find a better picture of the Duchess. But these pictures in Alice in Wonderland were done by a great, great, great artist called Walter Tenniel. Nearly all my favourite artists are illustrators. And Walter Tenniel absolutely loved the painting of the ugly old woman. There it is. It's almost the same, isn't it? It's almost, you can see it's the same. But it's also very different. Now I want to say to you that one place that people get ideas is other people's ideas. Do not be embarrassed about stealing other people's ideas, because you are very special. You are unique, the way Walter Tenniel was unique, the way the ugly old woman is unique. And if you take somebody else's idea and put a bit of you with it, it becomes something different. Like, I mean, if you cook, you know that every time you cook the same meal, it tastes a little bit different. And it will definitely taste different from the way it says in the recipe. So take someone else's idea, give it a twist, put yourself into it. So for instance, I wrote a book called Millions, which is about two little boys who find a bag full of money. That is literally the oldest story in the world. Finding treasure is the oldest story in the world, but in all the other versions of that story, people fall out and kill each other. So there's a famous version called The Pardoner's Tale by Geoffrey Chaucer, where they all end up poisoning each other. My friend Danny Boyle made a film called Shallow Grave, in which some people find a bag full of money and they try to keep it secret and they all end up killing each other. So when you put, and I thought, well, if you put children with it, maybe it'll be different. Okay, I'm talking so much now because I'm trying to put off the terrible moment that we do our writing together. So what I'm going to suggest now is I'm going to get my phone. We're going to do 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of writing. And I'm going to tell you why. But for those 5 minutes, I don't want you to think about spelling. I don't want you to think about neatness. I don't want you to think that I've got to write a lot of words. You could just write one word or a phrase. I don't care what you write. Could be a joke, could be a lie, could be a threat, could be a recipe, could be a letter. But for 5 minutes, we're going to write, because here's the thing. And we're going to write not worrying about anything, not worrying about having to think of an ending, not worrying about, the only person who's got to worry about this is me, because I am going to read out what I write. And I am scared, but you don't need to be, because I won't be able to hear you. I'm going to suggest that we do this because where do ideas come from is what the point of this session is. And I've said ideas can come from exaggerating ordinary things. Ideas can come from other people's ideas. Do not be scared of stealing other people's ideas. But the best place that ideas come from, and this is really, 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 really true, is starting. That's true in cooking, it's true in football, it's true in painting, it's true in baking, it's true in science. Once you start, other ideas come to you, because ideas like to dance. And a lonely little idea is always looking for someone to dance with. So if you just need that much of an idea, just enough to get you writing one sentence, I swear by the time you finish that first sentence, other sentences will start to come. And if you keep it up for 5 minutes, by the end of 5 minutes, you probably won't want to stop. Okay? So I am so nervous, but okay. I'm going to do this. I'm going to set the timer. Oh, we've got to choose the idea. So if you're on at the beginning, you know that all the idea prompts that you sent in are here in this. I chose this from Port Merion, which is near. Try not to look. I picked up one then by mistake, but on purpose. I picked up one and saw it, so I'm going to throw it back in, swiddle them around. Okay. And now I can't look now. Okay. I'm going to choose the idea. I'm so nervous. Choose the idea. Here it is. You ready? Okay. It's Steph's idea. At least it's not the Charles Dickens' idea. It's Steph's idea, and it is 2 eyes peered out of her pencil case. There it is. 2 eyes peered out of a pencil case. Okay, so we're going to start the timer for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Have you got your pen? Have you got your paper? I've got my pen. I've got my paper. Ready? Go. Oh, I've already lost 3 seconds. I'll read it out again. 2 eyes peered out of her pencil case. Okay. Where's my blinking pen gone? I've lost my pen. Got it. Don't worry about neatness. Don't worry about spelling. If you get stuck on having to think up someone's name, don't worry about that. Don't worry about an ending. Just do it. We're halfway through. This feels like the bake-off. There's like 1 minute left and I've thought of an ending, but I don't really have time to write it. You did a couple of seconds. Oh, that's the end. Put your pens down. Oh, that's mad. Okay, I'm going to just finish this. Did that. Should I read it out to you? Okay, this is, thank you, Steph, for this prompt, which I enjoyed actually. 2 eyes peered out of her pencil case. Who are you? Said Barbara. Sorry. Who are you? Said Barbara, and what are you doing in my pencil case? It's me, Agnes, your little sister. Right, said Barbara. You're my little sister, but you're not usually that little. No, I made a wish on a magic lamp. What magic lamp? Where did you get a magic lamp? eBay. I bought a lamp on eBay and it turned out to have a genie inside it. So why did you wish to be small? I didn't wish to be small. I wished to come to school with you because I was missing you. I should have been clearer about how I wanted to get here. The genie chose the pencil case method. Never mind, genies usually give you 3 wishes. Yeah, I may actually have used one of those already. We may be down to our last wish. Look out of the window. Through the window was a beautiful rainforest full of strange bird calls and beautiful flowers. Oh, right. And where's the lamp? Back home in Widnes. Okay, so that's the story. Felt like a story. I think I was trying too hard to make it into a story. It's all right if you didn't make it into a story. It's all right if you just came up with a word. But what I would like you to do today is read it out to somebody. Read it out to someone who's with you, someone that you love, someone that you trust, and just see, does it work? Or see if there's a bit of it that works, because even a tiny bit is something. I do this now every morning. This is my morning exercise. When I get to my desk, I put the timer on for 5 minutes and just write any old rubbish. And sometimes I catch something. I kind of think it's a bit like fishing, that, or sketching. If you know footballers or any athletes, they'll do a warm up before they start. If you know, footballers and musicians play their scales before they start. So I've started to do this. This is like doing the scales. And what I think is that if you've got a tiny, tiny idea, it's like the bait on a hook that you drop into a river in the hope of catching a bigger idea. So for those 5 minutes, this is when I go, this is like on the beach here, I see people digging for worms to use as bait. This is digging for worms. Just write any old rubbish. It's going in the bin. It doesn't matter. And for 5 minutes, sometimes when you're poking around in your brain, you find a little bit of gold. I would like you to read it out to someone, because reading it out is sometimes a revelation. I became a writer really because in year 6, a brilliant teacher, I probably told you this story, so I'm not going to tell the whole story here, but basically in year 6, having not been particularly great at school at all, I wrote one really good piece of work and my teacher read it out to the class. And until then, I wasn't good at anything, and by year 6, people are getting good at stuff. Some people are good at footy, some people are good at music, some people are good at drawing, some people are good at bullying. And there was a boy in my class who was very, very good at that. It wasn't me. And when this teacher read this piece of work out, that's when I started to think, oh, words are something you can be good at. If you choose the right word, you can make people laugh. You can make people think, you can make people cry if you just choose the right word. So that's when I started to think about words. And it was hearing my words read by somebody else that did that. So read your story out to somebody. And if you're proud of what you've written, if you've written something good, give it to me. And maybe we'll read it out on my Instagram. So if you just DM me on Twitter or tell me on Instagram, I'll give you an address to send it to, and maybe next week I'll pick a few to read out, and that'll be good. And you can hear me read them out, or maybe I'll even get someone even more interesting to read them out. So let's do that. So read your stories out. If you like a bit, even if it's just a couple of sentences, send them in to me. We'll pick some and we'll read them out next week or the week after on Instagram. Next week's midterm, isn't it? Right, so in those lists of shout outs, some of you sent questions. So I'm going to read those questions. Joey Kessler, whose dad is very brilliant and writes very well about dads, which is the subject of Cosmic. Joey Kessler, age 7, would like to ask this. Do you know the end of a story before you write it? No, I never do. And like lots of writers can't start till they know the ending. But to me, that's a bit like, if you know exactly where you go, I am happy to get lost, because sometimes when you get lost, you find amazing things. Sometimes when you get lost, you get panicky, you get thirsty, you can fall off a cliff, but you can also discover great things. So to me, getting lost in telling the story is a really good thing. And don't be afraid of getting lost. And don't be afraid of not having an ending. The journey is everything. So Joey, just get writing. Just get writing. I hope that in that 5-minute exercise, you discover that there is magic in just beginning. What's your favorite thing about writing, and what age did you start writing? Said Maya. Favorite thing about writing, no question, is you can stay in bed and have a really good day's work. If it's raining outside, you can stay in bed and do a great day's work. That is a pretty good thing about writing, I have to say. But the thing I love about writing, and that's been so sad the last years, I love going to schools and reading stories out. I love the sound of my own voice. Now, I love telling stories, and I love to be in a room where everybody's listening to a story, whether I'm in the audience or whether I'm the storyteller. So it has been a bit sad this last year, but this is great. My son Billy, age 11, would like to become a screenwriter. Do you have any tips? Start now is my tip, or don't give up is my tip, because writing movies can take. I'm going to start shooting a film in a few weeks' time, and I wrote the first draft in 2009, probably before most of you were born. It can take a long time to get a film to the screen, so just start. Same as anything else, just begin, just begin, just begin. There is magic in beginning. What is my favorite thing about writing? That was the other question. I think there was one more question. Oh yeah, one more question is, what's your next book about? That's from Amber and Megan. My next book comes out in May. And am I allowed to tell you this? I don't know, but okay. It's called Noah's Gold. It's set in Northern Ireland, probably my favorite place on earth. And it's about the internet stops working. So the last year, we've really, really kind of all become a bit addicted to the internet. We love it. It's brilliant. This is how I'm talking to you. This has kept us alive. It's done our shopping and everything. But what would happen if you took it away? The best way to discover how precious something is to lose it. So I've imagined it taken away, and what would that do? So that might be a good story prompt if anyone wants to do a story over the midterm. What would you do with the internet? Don't do a good job of it though, because it's very important that my book be the best one and be a bestseller. That's very, very important. It's set on an island off the coast of Northern Ireland, so it's kind of got a little bit of a treasure islandy feel. And you know what's great about this book? That's going to make it better than your book or any book. It's got a map in it. Every book with a map in is a great book. Whoa. So I feel as though I was talking too quickly. I feel as though we did a lot of work there. We thought about exaggeration. We did some writing. We thought about where ideas come from, stealing other people's ideas. Here behind me, one of the greatest ideas of all time, Don Quixote, and it's just other people's ideas told in a different way. And that great, great painting by Picasso there, which he just did looks as though he did it with a Sharpie. Very, very simple, very quick, like the writing session that you did. So we've covered a lot of ground. So I thought we would finish by me just reading you something for fun, just for pleasure. So you deserve a break. Sit back, and for the next 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to read you a story. And then that'll be the end of this session. We probably won't do one of these next week because it's midterm, but we'll come back the week after. And so if you've got ideas about what you'd like me to do say so on Twitter or on Instagram. And in the meantime, if you like and follow, then that means if anything goes wrong with this YouTube thing, it'll be a bit easier to find me. Or if you want to find these lessons another time, it'll be easier to find them. I thought I would read you the opening chapter of my book, Framed, because it's based on something Another place that you can find good stories. It's based on a happy memory, which I've kind of exaggerated a little bit, but it is a happy memory. Okay, I'm just going to read you the first few pages. Sit back, relax, because you deserve it, and I hope you have a lovely afternoon. My dad writes, ask anyone this, and they'll all say the same thing. My dad can fix anything. Toyota, Hyundai, Ford, even nice Tom's Mam's diddy little Daihatsu Coppin top speed 106 miles an hour, which is a car that is about the size of a marshmallow, and you need tweezers to fix it. And it's not just cars. Like the time we went to Prestatyn and Minnie wanted to go for a swim, but I wouldn't get in the water because it was too cold. She kept saying, come in, Dylan. It's fine once you're in. And I kept saying, no, Minnie, no, it's too cold. Then Dad got up and he went to the caravan and he came back with a kettle full of boiling water. And he poured the kettle of boiling water into the sea and said, Dylan, come in and test it now and tell me if it's all right, or does it need a bit more? I went into the sea and I said, no, that's fine now. Thanks, Dad. Are you sure? I'm sure. It's not too hot. No, it's not too hot. It's just right. Give me a shout. If it gets cold again, I can always boil another kettle of water. Then Minnie splashed me and I splashed Minnie, and we stayed in the sea until the sun went down. Dad fixed the sea. Now that is a thing. My big sister Marie never came in the water, even after Dad fixed it. She said, have you any idea what seawater will do to your hair? And later on, when we were playing Monopoly, she said, did you really think one kettle of water could warm the entire Irish Sea? I said, not the whole sea, obviously, just the bit that we were swimming in. Yeah, that would really work, said Minnie. Let me go through the physics with you. Minnie, said Mum, Euston Road, 3 houses, £270, please. Typical Mum, cleverly changing the subject just when it was getting tense. Obviously, I know now that that kettle of water did not warm the sea. That is not the point. The point is, I got into the water. Dad looked at that situation and he thought, I can't do anything about the physics, but I can do something about Dylan. And so he did. Okay, that's the end of that. Thank you so much. This was great. This was very, very nerve-wracking for me. I think we got away with it. Right, but only right for fun. Nothing that anyone does that isn't fun ever really works. People only play great football because they love football. People only do great cooking because they love cooking. People only do great art because they love great art. Find a way to enjoy it. Take all the cares away. Don't worry about the spelling. Don't worry about the ending. Don't worry about the mess. Don't worry about the planet. Sit down and have a great time. I hope you have a fantastic midterm, whatever that means. I hope you get outdoors. I hope you get a chance not to sit looking at a screen all day. And the week after next, we'll do another one of these. I am really happy to take any suggestions that any teacher or any homeschooler thinks would be useful. I would like to be of use. So just let me know. And in the meantime, have a lovely time. And thank you so much for listening. Goodbye. Shout outs.